Hello everyone, Rob Guest from football.london here and welcome to the latest episode of Gold Guest Talk Tottenham, sponsored by NordVPN. Joining me as ever, it's Alasdair Gold. You well?
Better than I was last time. Yeah, thanks for asking. Hope you are too. It's remarkable what a win can do. Not a pretty one, but an important one, and a week where I think everything around the place, around the club, suddenly just started to feel that little bit better, and there was an uplift, and not everyone was just feeling doom and gloom. And thankfully, it manifested itself in 3 points at the end of the week, and the first back-to-back victories of the season in the Premier League since they beat Brentford and Manchester United earlier in the season. What a strange kind of twist of fate that it's the same two clubs, but hopefully the start of something now.
Yeah, I said to you yesterday before the game, I wonder if this is one of those days where everything comes together for Spurs and they win like 4-0, but
Not quite.
what 1-0 will do though.
Absolutely.
A lot of positives to take from the game as well, and I think it was just vital to come away with those 3 points, and that's exactly what Ange said in his post-match press conference after the game. Certainly benefiting from a free week. The players look so refreshed compared to previous games. So, like I said, a lot of positives to take from that, and we'll go into those shortly. But first of all, we'll talk about the protests that happened at yesterday's game, both before the game and after the game, organised by Change for Tottenham. We've seen a few protests in the past that have been organised, and numbers maybe not so great, but this one, some very big numbers, and you were there waiting outside the West Stand to see them arrive.
Yeah, we kind of made a point. Quite a few journalists were. Some kind of people were kind of going into it, the actual protest, and kind of amongst it. And my kind of thinking was, I wanted to get slightly at a higher vantage point to be able to see the scale of it, because exactly like you say, we've had previous ones where it just hasn't quite clicked. It hasn't maybe been the right moment, the right time. It hasn't got enough of kind of momentum behind it. And it's been, maybe a couple of hundred at the most. Whereas you kind of sense that something bigger was brewing this time. And so there was a few of us. We came out of the media entrance and just went up some steps above the west, or kind of not above, but midway up the West Stand, and you could really see down and get a great kind of view then of the scale of it, and was able to put out a couple of videos and stuff. And it was really impressive in terms of, exactly like you said, for Change for Tottenham, what they've done this time is so different. It feels like there's more organisation behind this one, more inclusion. I think was quite important. I don't know whether it was just me, but it felt previously, especially social media wise, there's maybe more of a kind of an angry, aggressive, it's our way or no way, you're either with us or against us kind of feel. Whereas this felt more of an inclusive thing for other people that maybe had not differing viewpoints, but wanted change, but see it in a slightly different way and what's happened and things like that. And I think that kind of immediately, naturally led to more numbers flocking towards it. Whereas maybe some people didn't want to be associated with just kind of an angry take on it, whereas some were kind of looking for a constructive take on it. And that's exactly what happened, I think. I reckon it was up to between 1,000 and 2,000. Some of us reckon. Obviously, it's very difficult to do a head count when they're kind of swarming up the high street towards you. But yeah, it just had its effect. That was the main thing. It made really maximum impact because all of the media saw it. It was all being covered by everyone. Sky Sports obviously covering the game, did big stuff on it. It sparked debate afterwards from the pundits as well. And to kind of come up in front of the West Stand outside, the banners, the chanting, which a lot of us captured on our videos and everything. It was really well organised. And I think we said this in the previous pod, which I also think was really important, was that it was very clearly delineated between, we're going to protest before the match and after the match, but during the match, we're going to support the team and give it everything. And I thought that was huge on the day, because it could have easily been something that happened before the game, had this big kind of impact, but then seeped into a bit of a toxic atmosphere during the match itself. And had it gone that way, you're probably looking at a different result. I think it impacts, really does impact the team in those kind of scenarios. We've seen those atmospheres before. And it was all just managed perfectly. It really was. It was a kind of a peaceful protest. There was no issues in that regard. There was a lot of police. There was a heavy police presence, but it didn't, from what I saw, and I haven't heard of anything, nothing was required in that sense. It all looked like it was done perfectly. I felt a little bit sorry for, there was kind of I'd say maybe 200, 300 at the most remained in the South Stand after the game, but I did feel sorry for them because Spurs, if I'm going to be completely fair, they always play music after a victory. But certainly it just felt like there was very little opportunity for those fans in there to get their chants heard because of the music, but they still made the point of staying there with their banners. Sky Sports covering the game would have continued to show that afterwards as well. So it all kind of contributed to doing what it needed to do, which is ultimately these fans believe that it's time for a change. And I mean, there is a sense kind of among them that almost quarter of a century with one person at the helm of something making decisions, is that a healthy way to operate? You look at various kind of organizations or even presidents, prime ministers, things like that, they have a fixed term and that's part of it. And it allows other people to have different ideas. Of course, we've been speaking about this in the past. You don't always know what comes next. Doesn't always mean that it's a better thing. But obviously, when you're as frustrated and kind of disillusioned as many of these fans are, you just want something different. And it could be that the next thing is a better thing, of course. So we'll see. But yeah, on the day, I thought it was overall a big success in the way it was handled and organised. Have you seen the one chap trying to do his own mini protest against the protest?
No, I've not. You've mentioned it. I've not seen it, and I'm sure some of the listeners probably haven't seen it. So if you want to go into a bit more detail.
It was very brave. It was very brave. There was this one chap who stood on the high street in front of the marching thousands of people. It was kind of halfway between where the club shop is and the entrance to the West Stand. And he was holding up this tiny little sign that just said "Levy in." And I just thought, okay, that's interesting. And he was getting booed, he was getting absolute pelters. And he was just standing there with a big grin on his face. It was an interesting way to go, let's put it that way. But then there was this kind of weird moment where someone ran from the side of the crowd, ripped his little sign out of his hands and kind of tore it and threw it on the floor. And that got cheers, as it would. But I actually kind of thought that was kind of self-defeating. It was almost like you're kind of ruining the point of protest. Everything that this whole day has been about is about the protest, and it's gone really well. And I know it's a tiny little thing, but it just kind of said to me, you haven't got it. You haven't understood that. If you've done that, you're kind of trying to get a cheer when actually he's probably got as much right to do what he's doing as they are to do what they're doing. So yeah, it was an interesting decision. But certainly the main protest itself had a major impact, and I don't think it's the last time we'll see it either. I think it has to be used in the right ways. That was a key thing about this one as well. It was the right time, the right moment, and it was dealt with in the right way. I think if it's done all the time, it's probably going to lose its impact, but I'm sure we'll see it again at a future game with just fans being disillusioned.
Yeah, we'll go to matters on the pitch then now, and Tottenham winning 1-0 against Manchester United. A very important win after those two cup defeats against Liverpool and Aston Villa. James Maddison getting the goal. Maddison being one of the injured players to return into the team. Guglielmo Vicario as well. I mean, both of those players were key on the day. And, Ange said before the game that you're not only getting two players returning from injury, you're also getting two leaders back onto the pitch, what Spurs, desperately required over these past, couple of months or so. And both of them had a huge say on the game inside the first 15 minutes. James Maddison opening the scoring. Good finish from close range, good movement from him, just to be alert and ready with Andre Onana tipping out Lucas Bergwall's shot. But prior to that, Vicario chipped in with two big saves. I think it was Rasmus Højlund and Garnacho, and then it was Ben Davies clearing off the line from Diogo Dalot as well. So if one of those had gone in, things may have panned out differently, but I think it just showed you the value of Vicario and James Maddison to this Tottenham team.
Oh, absolutely. It's Vicario, kind of especially for me. Maddison obviously was the match winner, and he had lots of good moments. There was one slide tackle he did, which probably got almost a bigger cheer as the goal. He ran back and made a really good side tackle, and yeah, he's just there as an older head. I think there was a lot of weight lifted off of players who were trying to create stuff in attacking sense, because Maddison, he's got that ability to play clever balls through packed defenses. And United, the way they've been playing in recent weeks is very compact, and they sit back, and that's exactly where you needed someone like Maddison to. There was one ball he played to Son, which was beautiful in the first half. It was so nice. And yeah, the other players, suddenly there was a bit of a weight lifted off their mind that they knew they didn't have to create as much. They could maybe concentrate on making runs, and he would pick them out and stuff like that. And even after the game, there was a nice little moment between him and Matisse Tell, when Tell kind of fell to the floor absolutely drained, because he put in a proper shift up front. But he had a lot of chances. You know, he got in a lot of good positions, had 7 shots on the day, and it looked like he was a bit disappointed with himself that he couldn't score on the day. I mean, he's only 19 years old, and it looked like Maddison had a bit of a chat with him and kind of, I don't know what he was saying, but you presume it's like, don't worry about it kind of thing. Like the goals will come. It's mad to think that was Danso and Tell's Premier League debut. It feels like they've already played a load of games, but they've obviously been in the cups. But yeah, massive to have Maddison back in that respect. Took his goal well. Obviously, we had the celebration towards a certain Roy Keane in there as well, which I don't know whether I'm always a massive fan of those, especially early in the game as well. It is tempting fate, but fortunately got away with it this time. Yeah, before I go into Vicario, what did you make of that, the whole celebration thing?
It's one of those where I can understand why he's done it. When Keane said during the week, when's James Maddison going to step up to the plate? But again, it's one of these where you can have one good game, and then all of a sudden Maddison could be quiet in the next couple of games for Spurs and not have a big impact. And what you want to see is that consistency from him playing like he did yesterday, week in, week out. That's not always been the case with Maddison at Spurs. I think first season at the club, really good first 10, 12 games up until he got that injury. Then the second half of last season was really struggling for form. But I think this season is certainly improved. I think you can just look at his numbers. 10 goals in all competitions now for Tottenham, 9 in the Premier League. Tottenham's top scorer in the Premier League. I didn't actually realise that was the case. I thought it was Johnson or Solanke, but it's Maddison. I think he only got 4 goals last season in like 30 games. Got 6 assists last season. Or did he? No, 9 assists. He's on 6 now for this season. So his numbers are already better than last season. But when you're looking in terms of his Premier League minutes and that, I think it's 16 starts, 7 times coming off the bench. And yeah, there've been some really good moments for him this season, notably his double against Manchester City away in the 4-0. Yesterday against Manchester United, but there have been some games where he has disappointed and not been at the levels he can produce. So, like I said, it's just about getting the consistency. I can understand why he did the celebration, but maybe do that in a few weeks' time after some really good performances.
Yeah, I think I listened to a bit more of what Keane said. He was talking about players coming back to the dressing room, wasn't he, after injury, and how the likes of Van der Ven, Romero, seeing them back would really kind of push on the team. And he was like, if you're looking across and seeing James Maddison back in the dressing room, does that really fire you up, kind of thing? And I think, yeah, that was a lot toward kind of where that celebration came from. And I'm not a big one for the shushing celebration ever, especially early in a game. But yeah, you know where it comes from. And interesting, Maddison was saying after the game, wasn't it, that Postecoglou hates all of that. He really wants people to be in their own bubble and not be affected by outside noise. And also on the pitch, he hates it when they kind of moan about decisions and things like that, because they feel it detracts from just getting on with the game and stuff like that. But yeah, look, he won the game, and ultimately it worked for him. Vicario, though, for me, was huge in coming back. He was so important yesterday. You kind of forget how little he shuts up. He just is a constant kind of wall of noise, but in a good way. He's constantly praising the back line, talking to them, organising them, telling them off when they need it as well. And you kind of forget that when he got injured, they just beaten City 4-0 away from home. They were 6th in the league. They were in a far different position. They were in every competition. And he's gone away and come back to find everything's gone to hell, really, without him there. And the defence, he was playing yesterday with Danso, who he'd never played with before, Jed Spence, who'd never started a game the last time that Vicario was playing, never started a game for Spurs. And yeah, just such a different defence. Yet he comes back and the first thing he does, gets a clean sheet. Yes, United had some chances. I mean, the Xerxes header, especially for me, that's one he should be probably putting on target. But Vicario did his bit with everything else. I mean, Garnacho is probably sick of the sight of him yesterday. He pulled off a couple of really good saves from his efforts. And it was everything Vicario's performance needed to be, because Kinski has obviously had some bright spots. He's come in. I thought he's done very well for a 21-year-old at a different level, new club. He's done very well. Yeah, there's been a couple of iffy moments, but on the whole, he's did really well. But I think there was still this little kind of suggestion that, Vicario's got some proper competition now. So he had to come in and probably himself as well. There might have been a little bit of okay, I'm going to have to put on a show. I thought he was brilliant. I thought set pieces, I thought he did really well. He either kind of organised the defence well or came out and punched it a couple of times himself, even though there were a few times he was properly boxed in. You could see they were trying to work on him in that respect, United. Made some really good saves. The thing about Vicario that you always I always forget, is how amazingly springy he is in getting straight back to his feet after a save. He's one of the best for me at that, the reactions and just getting himself back up off the floor. And that came into play a few times. And he just is a leader. I know Lloris was obviously the captain for years at Spurs, but a different kind of goalkeeper captain. Lloris was one of those, didn't say much, but when he did, you listened. Vicario is non-stop. He just talks away, and he, after the final whistle, was going over to, I saw him having a really good chat with Bergvall. He had his hands on each side of his face. He was kind of talking to him. Bergvall, I thought, was really good. I thought he was really calm and disciplined in his performance as well. And then he went over to Davies, Vicario, had a big chat with him. Danso, I think it was the moment when he slid in front of Garnacho and he fired over the bar, made him kind of put his shot over. I think it was then Vicario went over and gave Danso a massive kiss on the top of his head. It was like all these really kind of just little moments that sound silly in isolation, but when you take them all together, he's just a leader. He is a proper person that dressing room looks to. He's 28 years old. He's got a brilliant mentality. He has fought throughout his entire career to get to where he is now. And every day for him is about being the very best he can be and everyone around him being the best. And it's huge to have him back in the squad. It really is.
Yeah, massive. I think you could tell how much it meant to him yesterday. There were a couple of videos on Tottenham's social media channels, one before the game where he was just sat in the dressing room, taking it in, saying how much he'd missed this place. Then there was one after the game at the full-time whistle where he's like screaming at the top of his voice towards the Tottenham fans. And
his neck veins are like bulging, aren't they?
Yeah, and just wearing the captain's armband as well. And I think yesterday just demonstrated how much of a leader he is for Tottenham and how much he's been missed, because I can remember during lockdown when we were going to the games and there was no fans in there. Yeah. And then you just realised how big an influence Hugo Lloris had during the game, because you could hear everything he was shouting at the top of his voice. Yeah. And Vicario is exactly the same and contribute some big saves yesterday. I think the one from Garnacho in the second half, the one at his near post, got a really good hand to it, low down. That was a key save. But yeah, big performance for him. I know everyone goes on about United's injuries yesterday. I thought United played pretty well and had more than enough chances in that game to score. That one Garnacho blazed over in the first half. That was a huge opportunity, that. And then really troubled Spurs towards the end, but Vicario on the defence, stood firm. It's just good to have him back. Good to have another leader back on the pitch, and hopefully bodes well going forward.
It's just amazing to have so many people back. It's just a totally different Tottenham in terms of the freshness. They were pressing. We haven't seen pressing for an age, but they were able to do it. And I asked him after the game, Postecoglou, I said, what was it like to be able to bring on 5 senior players in a match of the similar quality that you want at key moments? And he was just like, it's just a huge difference. Because, no disrespect to the young guys that have come into that bench, but ultimately, they're there for the experience. Most of them are probably not even coming on that pitch. It's a bit like United yesterday that he made one late change right at the end, didn't he? I think, isn't it only Lindelof on their bench had ever played in the Premier League or something like that?
Yeah, I think it was something like yesterday on United's bench, there was, I don't know if it was 268 appearances between them, and Lindelof had made 267 of them.
Oh, really? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. We got to hear a lot about United having injuries yesterday. I did think that was really interesting. You do see the difference. It's like when United have got something going wrong there, everyone knows about it. And the Spurs have been kind of limping along in the similar situation for 2.5 months. And it's only Ange, but it's an excuse. It's an excuse when he talks about it. But it was just brilliant to be able to bring on, Johnson, Odegaard, Sarr, Basuma. I'm forgetting someone. Who else come on? The fifth one.
Pat Matasar came on
as well. There was another one as well. Sarr and
Archie Gray.
Archie Gray, of course he did. Of course he did. He's funny enough the youngest one as well. But yeah, just to be able to bring on players that are not going to change the level of the team in that moment or the experience on the pitch was huge, massive. I mean, Reguilon couldn't even get on the bench. And we're going to have this over the next few weeks. There's going to be games where when everyone's back, there's going to be good players not able to get into matchday squads. And we're going to be back to, rather than kind of going like, woe is Spurs, we're going to be arguing over who should be and shouldn't be in there and why they're not in the squad, which is exactly what you want. That's the better things to be kind of being annoyed about. And it just made a huge difference. Like I said, the performance wasn't amazing, but it was enough to get the job done. And probably on a better day with some better final balls and maybe better finishing, Spurs maybe wrap that up anyway. But before United had more of their chances. But they got the job done. 12th place as well. Getting nosebleeds at the moment. That's incredible.
Yeah, so it's 7 points off Brighton in 10th now. I think they're 11 points off 7th, which is the last European spot, you'd assume. Usually is the case. The Conference League, I think 2 wins from the last 2 in the Premier League. I think the teams above them haven't really been consistent, but then again, neither have Spurs for a number of months. So there's going to be an opportunity there to whittle down that lead and hopefully get back into the top half. And those returning players are going to help because, there's still Romero, Van der Ven, Richarlison, Solanke still to come back.
Do you agree with Postecoglou's view that Spurs have kind of gone through their injury crisis and he thinks other clubs are now going to start going through those?
Maybe. Tottenham's isn't over just yet, and it is Tottenham, so there could be a few more on the agenda over the coming weeks. But maybe. I suppose a lot of the teams might have played the vast majority of the football now, because they would have exited the cup competitions. But then again, you've still got the likes of Liverpool, Arsenal, Villa in the Champions League, and plenty of others. So maybe it will be the case, but I think you just got to concentrate on Spurs having those players available again and just kicking on now, because the past 2.5 months haven't been good enough, especially when you look at the Premier League. But then again, look how many players you've been operating with, the same small group of players playing every 3 or 4 days. And then, like you said at the start, just having that week off, everyone just looked so much better for it, just refreshed. And that helps. That was a key reason for Spurs getting the 3 points yesterday.
Absolutely. It was just much needed. It really was. I think it's going to lift the whole mood. Another week, 6 days to prepare to go to Ipswich, and it's massive. And there were some really good performances amongst those. What did you think of Jed Spence, man of the match yesterday?
Man of the match, 100%. 2 weeks in a row in the Premier League. I think he might have quite the collection come the end of the season if he continues to progress at his current rate. And this was on the day when Destiny Udogie was on the bench watching on, and he must be thinking, I might not get back in here on a permanent basis, a left back. And did a piece this morning, the doggy, previously an undroppable in Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham team. I think his status has changed now because of Spence's performances. And the good thing with Jed is he can play it right back as well, which allows Destiny to come in a left back, and you can give Porro a break. But I thought Jed was brilliant throughout the 90 minutes, both in terms of going forward and defensively. I think there was a moment in the second half where he just used his skill and his pace to go past Mazraoui so easily. I think that resulted in Tell having an opportunity on goal. And again, I think there was a moment as well, not long after, probably around the hour mark, where he just spun Rasmus Højlund in the middle of the pitch. He fell straight to the ground. Big cheer from the Tottenham fans. But yeah, big contribution towards the end as well. That slide tackle on Højlund to stop him getting that shot away. And Archie Gray, Pedro Porro straight there to him, giving him a big pat on the back. And he's been incredible since he's come into the Tottenham team. He just seems to go through level after level. He just seems to be getting even better. And I was saying this morning that you've got an England squad coming up, March international breaks. There's a lack of left backs for England. And Lewis Hall at Newcastle, I think he played in the last one. He's obviously going to be a contender. There's Miles Lewis-Skelly at Arsenal as well. I think Jed Spence needs to be in the reckoning, because the way he's playing at the moment, this could be the ultimate reward for him. Go to the start of the season, maybe not getting so much of a look in. That Coventry moment was a big moment for him. He's kicked on since then, and maybe he does get recognised with an England call-up.
Yeah, I asked one reporter who covers England regularly, every single game and everything, about, I said, Jed might be there or thereabout, or certainly in their thinking.
Yeah.
And it was kind of initially like, calm down kind of thing. And then you could see the more they thought about it, they were like, do you know what? Yeah, maybe at left back, actually. It's not the wildest idea. It's like right back's quite strong, but at left back, perhaps, if he keeps going as he is. And I think that's key. If he can maintain he's been remarkably consistent. He's come in and done so well. And I would say Porro as well as Udogie, both are probably looking over their shoulders now, or even in Udogie's case, yes, it's not even over his shoulder. He's got to get back in the team, really. I do wonder whether playing as a left back in Postecoglou's system actually suits Spence even more than playing as a right back. And the reasoning is he will naturally invert like Postecoglou wants him to, because he'll want to get on that right foot. Whereas maybe on the right, he might remain a bit more of a wider player, which isn't exactly what Postecoglou wants from him. So yeah, it may be that benefits him to that degree as well. And his defending on the left isn't weaker than you would think it would be for a right-footed player. He's actually very good. He almost shows them inside onto his right foot, and he can deal with them though if they try and get to the touchline as well. He was excellent, and he terrified United every time he was on the ball. Every time he got it, he looked to be proactive with it. This is the irony of, obviously, Postecoglou just didn't feel he was ready last season and didn't feel he was ready at the start of this season, although he saw enough to want to keep him around. But the irony is he's a Postecoglou player. A bit like I was saying with Bergvall. I thought Bergvall in the first half especially took charge in so many moments, went on these little runs, got past his man, was really proactive with trying to make space. And Spence is exactly the same. It's that kind of fearlessness that he's got in his game, and he gets the crowd up. He gets the rest of the team up and going, and they look to him. They know they can give him the ball in tight spots. His defending isn't always perfect, of course. That's going to be part of his kind of development over the years ahead. And his final ball also can be a little bit kind of decision-wise isn't great, but it's all part of it, is his learning kind of process this season. As I said earlier, when Vicario was injured, Jed hadn't started a single game for Tottenham Hotspur yet. It was just mad. And now I think all bar 2 games where he was injured, he started every Premier League match since mid-December or something. It's just mad. And actually, they're going to have to probably manage him quite carefully as well, because he's gone from playing very little football to playing a lot of football. And I can imagine probably next week you're going to have the Ipswich and City games in quick succession. I would imagine maybe the Ipswich games, maybe he doesn't start and then starts against City, and there's going to be a big uproar of Jed's been left out. But actually, it's probably the right thing to do in terms of having him as fresh and ready to face City as possible, because you need. I think you'll need his kind of ability in that game as well to try and unlock City and give them problems in the other direction as well. So, but yeah, overall, it's brilliant for him. Another man of the match, and yeah, it's just great to see everything's going right for him. Clearly off the pitch, on and on the pitch now, and it's lovely to see stuff like that.
Yeah, I think you are going to have to manage his minutes going forward, especially with Badoggy and Porro back now. You want to share them out a bit. But what I would say is, whereas some of the players have probably played, how many games? 30 games already this season plus.
Yeah.
Jed's probably certainly not played as many, and
No.
he's going to be a lot fresher than some of them because he barely played in the opening 3 months. He's not played Europa League football, so he's relatively fresh compared to the others. And I saw someone mention on social media yesterday, do you maybe unleash him a bit like Gareth Bale because he's that good going forward, play him in an attacking role? But what I would say to that is, I think he's Spurs' best fullback defensively. I'd leave him there where he is.
And height-wise, he's good from set pieces.
Yeah, and you still got to get those marauding runs forward from him, and he's gone to invert. And credit to him, because there's not many players who've had like redemption stories like Jed.
Yeah.
Because rewind 12 months ago when he was in Italy, you're thinking that's the end of his Tottenham career. No coming back from him, but putting the hard work, and he's getting all the praise he deserves right now.
Yeah, and I hope what he's taking from this isn't like, I always believed I could play at this level. I was right. It's more, that's what I had to do to get to this level. Because it's huge credit to him for everything he's doing off the pitch as well. Everyone's spoken about the brilliant attitude and work rate and everything off the pitch, and that's what's got him to where he is now, and long may it continue. What did you make of Kevin Danso?
Before we come on to Kevin Danso, what we'll do?
I know where this is going. Go on.
We're more than halfway through the podcast now anyway, so I think we're going to have to talk about our sponsor, NordVPN. Had a message from someone earlier before we're coming on the podcast asking if the link still works, which I hope it does. So maybe that is another happy customer there signing up to Nord, and you're going to tell us about the benefits of using NordVPN.
I wondered where you're going there. I thought you were going to go back to Spence's time in Italy. And if you were in Italy, I was thinking, why have we gone back to that? Yes, NordVPN. I didn't need to escape and have a holiday after another disappointing Spurs performance because they won. But if I had, I would absolutely be using NordVPN had I headed off abroad. And I will be actually next month. I've got a little break, and I will be using NordVPN on that. A long ago pre-booked trip, which I will definitely be using NordVPN while I'm out there to access everything back home and be able to watch. I think I missed 2 Spurs games, don't I? So I'll be able to keep an eye on those using NordVPN, making my device think it's back in the UK. And likewise, you can use NordVPN to do it the other way around. You might be in the UK and you might want to switch your phone or tablet or whatever to think it's in a completely different part of the world. And that might make it easier for you to stream shows from other parts of the world, book things like concert tickets, airplane tickets, hotels, whatever. It might be cheaper if it thinks you're in the destination country. So yeah, there's loads of stuff you can do with NordVPN. And on top of all of that, it is the fastest VPN in the world. And that means no buffering, no lagging, and you can stream your favorite shows from anywhere in the world without your bandwidth throttling. It's also very helpful in security aspects. When you're using public Wi-Fi, it can go a long way to stopping people taking stuff off your devices that you certainly don't want them to do. And yeah, you spoke about that link, and to get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/Gold Guest, where our link will give you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan. Excuse me. And there's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link, in case you just missed it there, is in the podcast episode description box.
So going back to Kevin Dancer then, for my verdict, I think he's been a brilliant signing so far. He's fitted in with ease, looks right at home, got plenty of pace, good on the ball. I think there was a moment in the first half yesterday where a bit like Christian Romero in terms of, running forward with the ball. Now I think he's been a solid signing. I think it's a shrewd investment at a time when Spurs have really lacked the options and experience there. And I think I said before on a couple of podcasts ago when listening to his interview with Rising Ballers that he's not going to take his move to Tottenham for granted, given what's happened in his career beforehand and the loan move to Southampton that didn't go to plan. No, he's been fantastic. Only got about 79, 80 minutes yesterday. Picked up a bit of a knock to his knee. Don't think that's anything to worry about, which Andrew was saying after the game. But no, I think him and Matisse Tell have been solid signings so far.
Yeah, I think Danso could end up being one of the signings of the window. I genuinely think he's been so impressive. He's just come in and he's looked like he's always been there, and that's a huge testament to someone coming in. Especially, I know he had that spell at Southampton, but that was at a different time. Very young player then, and it was a tough kind of period for him as well. But he's come in and he's looked every inch kind of. I think he's going to be a bit of a leader as well. I get that impression. I was reading as he did a little interview. It's in the Matchday program, and everyone kind of just speaks about him as this like quite a character behind the scenes as well. I think he sings a lot. He's always singing, and always kind of this positive presence around everyone. And he's got I think the pace to back up a lot of the other stuff he does. And like you say, he loves to go forward. He'll do a little bit like we always joke about Romero. He will stay forward as well. And you're a bit like, okay, it's time to come back. But he's very comfortable on the ball. They're always very willing to give him the ball in tight situations as well. That you spoke about that Garnacho miss in the first half. That was all because of Danso sliding in front of him. He suddenly had no real place to put the ball. And there was, a big sliding tackle late in the game as well, wasn't there, that he did, which was a huge moment as well. He was, I think it was Højlund actually, 20 minutes to go. And yes, he was limping quite a lot the second half, you could see. And I think it got a knock on his knee. I think it was Postecoglou who said. But he said Sonny, Dancer and Bentaleb all had knocks, but he said they're fine. And the beauty is we can let them have a couple of days off to rest and recover. We don't have to throw them back in on a Wednesday or Thursday night because they've got to play again. So hopefully they'll be fine. But yeah, Dancer's just fitted in perfectly. I think he's exactly what they need, and he is. Was he 26 years old? He's not a kid. He just offers that little bit more that they need. And you mentioned Tell there. What did you think about him through the middle?
I think it works a lot better than him playing out wide at Villa, what was the case last week. Because for me, Son's not a centre forward. He struggles there. He's more effective from the left. Tell, nice and bright, works extremely hard throughout the game. Had a fair few chances on goal. I think he was probably disappointed, maybe not to get his name on the score sheet, but those opportunities are going to come, and they're always going to come when you've got players like Dejan Kulusevski, James Maddison playing behind you, Brennan Johnson, Son on the wing. Those opportunities will come for him. But I suppose it's the case for any striker. They want to score in every game, want to score on the home debut at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. But no, I've been impressed with Tell so far, but I think, like Dancer, I think there's probably still a lot more to come from him.
Yeah, he hasn't got the physical presence of a Solanke or a Richarlison or anyone like that. You can see that. He's a big lad, but I think he's only 19. He's probably going to fill out a bit more as well. He's quite gangly. He's got these like really kind of long arms and everything. He's got terrific technique. He's not going to hold up the ball as a focal point striker, certainly at the moment anyway. But what he does do is offer you lots of running. When he gets the ball down the channels, he's very good at keeping the ball. That's when he's at his best, maybe more so than when he's got his back to goal. And he was making, good movements, good runs, got into good positions. Probably the best chance was the one that was saved by Onana, wasn't it? First half, Sonny teed him up. That was probably the best one. But that's the key thing, is getting into those areas to have shots. And it'll be interesting when Solanke and Richarlison come back, because I think the more he adapts, the better he will also then be on the wing when he needs to go there. There's going to be a lot of competition suddenly for those wing spots. And, Sonny's going to be battling for his place, which is good. I think that's good for Sonny. I think he needs the competition to drive him on as well. And likewise on the right, you've got Johnson there, you've got Alasdair there, you've got young Mikey Moore as well. Timo Werner's come back as well. He might have a say on things. Who knows? Not in Europe, because he can't play in that, obviously. I feel like I'm probably forgetting. I mean, Kulusevski obviously can play there as well if needed, but
Richarlison.
Well. Yeah, that's another one as well. I mean, with Kulusevski, you can now pretty much concentrate on him being a deeper midfielder now, because there are going to be that many options suddenly on the wings again. It was lovely to see Alasdair come off the bench. Obviously, great to see Johnson back as well, but Alasdair so long out, and just having that little kind of spell. It was only, 5-6 minutes. It wasn't long, but just he was trying to be everything that he knows he can be. Just in that little spell, just going at them, dribbling at them. What did you make of like the little cameos from the subs?
I thought they were good. Alasdair stood out for me, even if it was just 5 or 6 minutes. Just being bright, proactive on the ball, and it's going to be interesting to see how the relationship with Tel develops over time, because they seems to be quite close friends. Played together for France under 21s before, and I think Tel said in his club interview that Alasdair had a key role to play in that, just trying to convince him to move to the club. But it's just nice to see Alasdair back on the pitch, because the last time we saw him in action was a matter of minutes against AZ Alkmaar in the Europa League, and then he just picks up an injury in that game, and we've not seen him since. And I suppose as well, it's nice that it's the middle of February and he's back, because going on Andrew's comments in October, November, it did sound like it was going to be towards the back end of the season. When he was coming back.
And Vicario's back a month before they expected.
So no, it's good, and it's probably just reward for them for the hard work they put in the treatment room, on the training pitch. That's exactly where they want to be, just on the field playing for Spurs again. And I think for Alasdair, for Johnson, for Doggy, there's going to be opportunity there against Ipswich on Saturday, because Ange mentioned in his press conference on Friday that he wants these players to have a decent amount of minutes in the belt before the Man City midweek game comes around. So there's going to be a bit of rotation there. But hopefully a lot more to come from them.
Yeah, and the key, I said it earlier, the key to Postecoglou's system is pressing. They need to press from the front. And if you can, on the hour mark, make a load of changes that suddenly everyone up front is pressing as hard as they were at the start of the game, the opposition defence are going to have a nightmare, because they just can't get out. They're being suffocated essentially by the waves of Spurs press. And that's how it needs to be. There's too many games recently when the players have looked so tired. They've looked jaded. It's been very selective pressing. And the team that they're playing against knows that they've got all the time in the world to do what they want to do. There were so many times United lost the ball yesterday because Spurs pressed them. It might not be the initial press that does it, but it can be a panicked pass, a couple of passes on, that gives them the ball back in the midfield, because they've had to rush what they're trying to do. That's what kind of Johnson will bring. That's what Alasdair will bring. And then also having the quality in the other direction to go and do what they do. And like you say, we're still waiting with Solanke and Richarlison to come back in the weeks ahead as well. I do feel like, I can't remember, one of the journalists said before the game, it's funny, isn't it, how you look at the team and you're like, yay, it's great, there's so many people back. But actually earlier in the season, had they been missing Richarlison and Solanke, you would have been going, oh no, they really need a strong target man, focal point striker. But you're just so happy to have people back. You're like, it's better than it was. But yeah, when they have Solanke at the head of it all, or Richarlison at the head of it all, it makes such a difference as well. So fingers crossed, getting these players back is massive. I actually thought Sarr came on and did well as well. I thought he was a really kind of positive, energetic presence in that midfield. But yeah, hopefully they're heading in the right direction now, and we'll see the kind of Postecoglou football that he wants this team to be playing, and in turn they'll start pushing up the table. I was on the train back from the game, talking to some of the Spurs fans, and one of them said it was a weird game because I kind of feel like that's that now in the Premier League, and it's all a bit of dead rubber from now on. And I was kind of like, I don't know if I really see it like that. I think I kind of see that now we'll actually get to see Spurs as they should be. And I genuinely think Spurs will start motoring up the table now. There's a lot of points to make up. They've got big gaps to kind of plug, really, before they can start pushing on that much. But I do feel like the momentum hopefully will now be in the Spurs' favour, as long as they can keep doing what they're doing, and getting results again, and also getting players back from injury, the last remaining few, and not losing more to them. And I do think other teams are going to start falling away a little bit because, as you kind of said earlier, a lot of the other teams that haven't suffered from injuries is maybe going to be more of a tiredness aspect to it, whereas Spurs are going to have fresh legs coming in just at this key part of the season. And of course, Europa League is huge now. That's the biggie for them. And it is a massive benefit that they'll go from the City game having a week before the first leg of the round of 16 match as well. That's massive. But I do feel like the Premier League, I wouldn't rule out a charge up the table. I'm not saying anything remarkable is going to happen. I'm not saying that, like, watch out, Liverpool kind of
Title
thing.
charge.
Exactly. But I just think there's going to be a lot to enjoy, hopefully, in these kind of last few months of the season in terms of the Premier League and where they can get to. And some of the performances they put in. So, yeah, I wouldn't write off the season just yet. I'm kind of with Ange on that. I still think there's a lot to enjoy and play for, and almost just setting up next season as well, really.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's 7 points between Spurs and Brighton in 10th at the moment. I think Brighton haven't been so consistent this season. They've had some good results.
Yeah.
3-0 against Chelsea on Friday night. You've got Villa in 9th. Let's be fair, might have one eye on the Champions League because they're through into the knockout phase. So, 7 points looks a lot at the moment, but that can turn around in 2 or 3 games quite easily. So, and what's going to help Spurs is just having these players back available. You mentioned the Europa League. We'll find out how Spurs play in the last 16 on Friday at midday. That draw's taking place in Switzerland. It's looking like one of Real Sociedad or AZ Alkmaar, because Alkmaar beat Galatasaray 4-1. Sociedad won 2-1 away in Denmark.
Troy Parrott scored, didn't he, for Alkmaar as well? 17th goal of the season.
17, wow.
17.
So who would you want out of those two?
Ooh.
It's got to be AZ, you'd think, over 2 legs.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably looking at that as being the one out of the two. In terms of a nice trip for the Spurs fans, obviously, Sociedad's going to give you probably the nicer, I was going to say holiday, but trip to make. But yeah, probably on a football level, Alkmaar is the one, and obviously cool to see Troy Parrott again, taking on Spurs as he did earlier in the season. But yeah, fascinating to see how that goes. I did not expect that Galatasaray result. Galatasaray just obviously had a man sent off as well, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Had someone sent off early in the second half, but
they were already being beaten, weren't they?
Yeah, I think there was 2-1 down at that point, but that tie's not over yet. It's Galatasaray have some good options going forward. We saw that in November when Spurs were there, and they've got that incredible home support behind them. But taking a 4-1 lead there, you'd like to think you're going to go through to the next round, and I think Sociedad will be confident as well. I think Sociedad lost 3-0 at Betis yesterday. I don't think they're probably as strong as they have been, but I think out of the two, be AZ you'd be looking at. But Spurs are going to go all the way. They're going to have to play some good teams, and there's going to be some big challenges in there. But all will become clear on Friday. This week as well, Hotspur away, free week again. What is this madness?
I know, it's just mad. It's weird for us as well. We've kind of got into this real almost grind, haven't we, of like press conference match, and just that's all we're writing about. And now we're having to kind of use our brains again and write about other stuff other than matches and press conferences, which is it's really interesting. But yeah, to have a full week and just have normal training sessions and get his tactics across and what he wants to do, Postecoglou, it's massive for him. And yeah, these players getting to the next game and not still feeling the effects of the previous game. It's just absolutely huge for them. And yeah, he was asked about Ruben Amorim and that, had he any sympathy or even empathy for what the managers are going through. And he just said, look, there were no sympathy cards on my desk in my office when we were going through these things. And he just kept trying to make the point, which is true. It's that, you know, this is one game for Man United. And he said, I thought they played well, United, bearing in mind what they had going on and players playing out of position. Obviously, that's what he's kind of indicating, so is Spurs. And he's saying, but do that for 2 months. Do what you've just done today for 2 months. And people just kind of almost like wound up by it now. It's quite fascinating to see. Like, people are almost angry that he's suggesting that this has been a problem. It's like, all right, stop going on about it. But it's like, I get where he's coming from, because it is annoying when it just gets completely excused and or just overlooked, and now everyone else, it's like, oh, Arsenal have got no attackers. Oh, poor Arsenal. And United, oh, they had all these kids on the bench. And it's like, yeah, that's what Spurs have been doing for months now. It's like you've just realised it because the other teams have got it. So yeah, I'm with him on that, absolutely. But yeah, massive week now. I'm preparing for a game. I think, if I was told correctly, I think Kieran McKenna was at the match yesterday behind us in the press box. Not he wasn't in the press box, but I think Base, the agency, have a box that's just behind us, and he, along with Ange, are both Base clients, and I think he was there watching the game. I don't know whether he'd been unduly worried by what he saw from Spurs, but I think with another full week, it will continue to be a very different Spurs that kind of goes to Portman Road.
Yeah, we'll talk about Ipswich more. I think later in the week we're going to have an opportunity to do 2 podcasts this week because of Tottenham's rare free week. Yeah, that's going to be another decent test. Ipswich coming off the back of really good point at Aston Villa on Saturday, 1-1 draw. Dane Scarlett winner on his return to Portman Road.
Oh, that would make it what? And then a shush and then a chatterbox sign, and then he throws a dart. It could happen. Yeah, it's going to be a good match. I haven't been to. When was the last time I went to Portman Road? I think it was a youth game a couple of years back. That's a proper ground with a bit of history. That one, it's like an old school ground. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, some other things for Tottenham over the past few days. Yang-Min Hook at QPR on loan across the capital. He played his part in QPR's 4-0 win over Derby on Friday. He's coming in for quite a bit of praise. He's only played 4 times for them, but this was his first start. Got an assist to his name, putting the ball on the plate for Elias Chair to score his second of the game. And he just looked really bright. And I know there's been a lot of question marks over how would he cope with the physical demands of the Championship. Looks like he's getting on fine. Troubling defenders going forward. Really, really positive loan spell so far. So that's going to be interesting to see how that develops. But he certainly put himself in a good place to start for QPR at Portsmouth on Saturday. And yeah, hopefully a lot more to come from him.
Yeah, it's another one for the list of very good loans so far. You know, people raving about Will Lancashire as well. West Brom apparently settled in really well there. And yeah, Yang-Min Hook, that was the big question mark. It's the physical side of it. Could he make the jump to English football? And you know, the Championship is an unforgiving league. You know, if you're not ready for it physically, you're going to be exposed very quickly. And he hasn't been, because he's really, really got into it, done well. The assist was lovely. It's a really nice kind of move. There was another really nice turn he did earlier in the game as well. And he is just kind of proving a real menace to defenses, which is great. And yeah, massive for him, really, because it's one of those, isn't it? When a player like that comes to another club, there's an understanding within the game that he's going to need a bit of time to adapt. It's a big move. Whereas maybe more outside from people looking in, it's more of a cynical view of looking at it. And you know, it's just I don't know. There's even some people suggesting, it's just a marketing thing and all that. But it's like, He was a young player of the year in Korea. This isn't like just someone they've plucked off, out of Korea to come over. There's a real, there's a real talent there. And yeah, I think it's terrific that he's gone there and started so brightly. And yeah, long may it continue.
Yeah, someone else you want to mention, Nabil Bentaleb, former Tottenham player. Big moment for him this weekend on his return to the Lille team away at Rennes.
Yeah, huge. It's one of those where Bruno Genesio, the manager of Lille, said afterwards, like, it's like a movie. And it is. 8 months ago, in June last year, Bentaleb, who many might remember from 5 years at Spurs, he kind of came into Poch's midfield. He was one of those with Ryan Mason that was brought through when he was trying to change and make things a younger look to it. So last year in June, he was hospitalised with an illness. I think it was after an Algeria World Cup qualifier. And he went to hospital with this illness, and then it was kind of later revealed that he'd had a cardiac arrest. It was incredibly serious. And then what happened afterwards was same surgeon, I think it was, or doctor that worked on Christian Eriksen, fitted Bentaleb with a pacemaker, and he kind of, as always happens in those situations, once you kind of get over the fear of kind of loss of life and things like that, the next thing for any footballer is going to be, well, am I going to play again? And there was a lot of doubts over whether he would come back and play. But he just has kind of worked away in the background, like I say, 8 months on. And finally last week, the French Football Federation, they had a medical group convened to decide whether he should be allowed to come back and play football. And they decided he could. So that was a week ago. He's been training. He's been full training. And at the weekend for their trip to Rennes, he was put in the matchday squad, which was huge in itself. 0-0, Lille struggling a bit, and brought on with 15 minutes to go. Within 4 minutes, a corner comes in. I think it's headed and saved, and the ball comes to Bentaleb in quite a tight position, and he slides it into the net from a tight angle. It's just like, it's a fairy tale moment. And he just set off on this sprint diagonally across the pitch to the bench. And he was pointing at someone. I don't know who it was, whether it was a coach, whether it was medical staff, I don't know. But they just mobbed him. It was the loveliest kind of moment. And then I think Akpom scored, and it was 2-0. They ended up the game. But just this kind of good feeling towards him from all of the Lille fans and the staff and the players, and just this huge journey he's been on to come back and score a goal on your first match back after a cardiac arrest is just remarkable. And I agree with Genesio. It is movie kind of stuff. I wonder if one day we'll see a film version of that. And absolutely lovely for him. And he's 30 years old now. He could have a long, long time left in his career to kind of go on and do everything he needs to be. And terrific. Lovely to see.
That's a nice and positive way to end today's episode of Gold Guest Talk Tottenham. We'll be back later in the week to preview the Ipswich game and discuss whatever else happens in the world of Tottenham Hotspur. So as ever, just keep with us at football.london for all your latest Tottenham news. To get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/goldguest. Our link will also give you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the podcast episode description box.